that you bring this up, and there are some back channel discussions, and I would be really happy to contribute my thoughts there.
I look forward to that. PL?
Yes. So these are the things that we need to do. We need you, first and foremost, to win your congressional seat in March. Number one. Number two, once you get in there, we need to bring the show to the Hill, and we need to start having events. We need to start talking to the movers and shakers on both sides of the aisle. And these are the things that we need to do. And I think reconciliation is a wonderful place to start.
I absolutely agree. I just want to share with you that one of the challenges, and when I was in college 40 years ago, I found myself nationalistically involved in a number of reparations movements, reparations efforts, and have always believed in the repair for damage done. And that's just not only for African Americans, but you can almost identify in societies all over the world some damage that has been done by colonial empires that have devastated the indigenous in those systems. And that's this whole idea of a neo-colonialistic view of South America right now in the Caribbean. It's a throwback, and it's really, really awful what's taking place when one considers it. But what I decided after having spent a few years in Congress to overcome some of the limitations of that very education process, Auntie, that you said needs to take place, I decided that there was a step before reparations. For me, it's constitutional rights. It's adding new amendments to the Constitution, because there is an education process that is required not only amongst the American people on the question of reparations, but in at least a short run, everyone has to benefit from the education process. So if everyone has the fundamental right to health care, and it's equal and of high quality, well, where there are disparities in health, they now have the right to challenge the system to balance it. But it doesn't mean just for Black people, rural health included too. And I could use the same for education, or for the environment, or for the constitutional right to vote, or for equality for women. If they had such fundamental rights in the Constitution, they can be sustained over time. And as the country becomes better educated, then we can put on the table, hey, look at the indigenous here. Look at the slave. Look at the immigrant. Look at how people have been treated, and what is the repair for that damage done. Short of establishing a minimum floor of equality, it becomes very difficult to educate people who are without education what fairness is, what justice is, what quality of life means, and why we're all stuck in the same boat together until we agree that we have some fundamental understanding of fairness that must exist in our world for all people. I'd like to see it established constitutionally. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're worldwide with P.L. Da Silva, our very special Auntie T. Kynan, our very special guest, and I look forward to continuing our conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Construction is underway on a new housing project in Chicago's North Lawndale neighborhood. Black Mayor Brandon Johnson joined officials at a groundbreaking for the $5.4 million development.
The 7 2-flats that have been constructed and rehabbed by Citizens Building a Better Community will provide an affordable, safe, and quality home for 14 residents.
The project will turn 7 vacant city lots into homes for buyers earning up to 140% of the area's median income. Former President Barack Obama is encouraging Chicago residents to apply for jobs at his presidential center on the South Side. In a video, he said applications are open at obama.org, with more than 150 full-time positions available ahead of the center's June opening in Jackson Park. And Black Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor Donnie McClurkin is facing a lawsuit from a former assistant who alleges years of sexual abuse. McClurkin denies the allegations. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are 13-5 on the road after winning at New Orleans Tuesday night, 111-103. 30 points each for LeBron and Luka Doncic. LeBron also had 8 rebounds and 8 assists in 33 minutes. The Lakers are in San Antonio tonight. LeBron will likely get the night off. At age 41, the Lakers are considering resting LeBron in the second game of back-to-back games throughout the season. The Clippers start a 3-game road trip tonight in New York against the Knicks. The Clippers have been playing a lot better lately. They are 7-1 in their last 8 games. In that stretch, Kawhi Leonard is averaging 35.4 points. This Friday at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter, the controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580, because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the need. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward. J Lunch Club on KBLA Talk 1580, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are worldwide with P.L. Da Silva, experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, and academia, the United Nations, political and military affairs throughout the world. P.L. keeps our show relevant. We're also grateful that Auntie Pinty Kainen lives in the United States and is professor of practice at Carter School and George Mason University and executive director of the Mary Hoke Foundation and Think Peace Learning and Support Hub. The research center he leads studies how to heal relationships after war, violence, and systemic oppression. He became also known after the murder of George Floyd. Secretary of U.S. Congress and the Senate drafted legislation to establish a truth commission in the United States. Auntie, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Congressman. And if you may, I'd like to continue on a point you just finished last time when you said that education and the rights are needed. But when we look to the reality in the United States today, there's an incredible pushback on education, on information that's being provided in schools, as well as fundamental constitutional rights. So what we should be observing out of this is that what we have been doing before is not enough. There's something wrong in the recipe that's not producing what the ambition is. And so I'm actually happy to share that I've been looking into this and hoping to publish this year a book with the title How Nations Heal. And I'm happy to share some thoughts of what I have discovered there. And so I think the challenge we have to face and really honestly reflect on is that it's probably not going to be possible to win this issue as a struggle, or as someone said, writing a book, waging a war for civil rights or racial justice, because there's always seems to be a pushback. So we have to go a little bit deeper with that. And there's a psychological explanation, first of all, for us. There's a connection between the cycles of the victim and the aggressor. The more the victim stays in the victim mindset, the more the aggressor somehow gets more aggressive. And that's really strange, but that's somehow wired in the way we behave in the human brain. The second is that this cannot be bypassed and resolved by name calling and shaming and finger pointing. As we saw with the DEI, there has to be a different kind of approach where we actually understand that transformation may require some efforts that include litigation, but when it comes to individual level, it has to be invitational. Because if you're called with names and pointed out that you have caused this and that, it's not enough. There has to be a recognition by the one who has harmed that also they're hurting themselves, and for them to regain their humanity to the process. And that cannot be enforced. It has to be invitational, and that will be the really difficult thing to learn, which I do on the other hand believe that they understand and know how to do it at community level and family levels. My final couple of points is that individuals have to be bold enough to do the work first. You know, yourself as a future congressman, if you have been able to do the process of healing from your wounds and healing from your intergenerational trauma, you will have the insights to bring to the process. And that's exactly what this country needs. Individuals who are bold enough to face the dark sides of our minds and enter together in the process where we're actually regaining, both of us, the humanity, what we have lost because of what has happened and is happening. Yeah.
I do want to say that when I reflect upon the 97th birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., which we will be celebrating on January 15th and as a national holiday here in the United States on January 20th, and I understand that it is celebrated in other places throughout the world, I find this idea of the path for healing a nation offered by Auntie to be particularly compelling, PL, that we have to give some reflection to the victim and the victimizer and the way in which one receives and the middle ground that has to be struck in order to establish some kind of bond of humanity, some kind of frame of reference that allows us even to be able to communicate. And in this moment, PL, I can't help but think about Martin Luther King Jr., some of the arguments, the case that he was making, and the tone of reconciliation that he was offering his message in. PL?
Yes, so I keep stressing that we have to go back to that era of the civil rights movement where we have to unify our peoples of color. And we need to get our house in order, but we also need to have access to power. We can't be totally disenfranchised and sit on the side and wait for crumbs from the rich man's table. We simply can't do that. So the midterm elections are extremely important for us. And the thinking at the time of the civil rights movement and of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., this kind of this is what this country needs. All this terrible business of fragmentation that's happening now. We need to work very hard to first get our house in order and then out to others who may not necessarily agree with us, but to try to find our common humanitarian empathy, which seems to be lost. I mean, if you look at the Gaza genocide, that's a very clear example. We need to regain our humanitarian empathy, that we really care for our other human beings. And all these people who say that they're Christians, I'd like to see them do this in practice.
You know, PL, I just want to make a distinction here in that I pray and hope that balance is added to our government in the form of the vote and the midterm election. But what I heard from Auntie was deeper, that was on a deeper spiritual level. That Democrats regaining control of the Congress does not necessarily does not come to terms with the kind of reconciliation that has a brother look at his brother and say, we are going to coexist. We're going not to survive, but we're going to thrive together. That I recognize your common humanity and you recognize my common humanity, and the soil that you're born on to move this issue to Venezuela. What's underneath it belongs to you and to your people, as if it is a God-given right, and I don't have a right to usurp that right. And no economic system can drive my politics into your country for the purposes of a few stockholders and shareholders in New York using gunboats to enforce oppressive policies in other parts of the world, and we just ignore the complete humanity of other people. I mean, in that moment, I don't see that as inherent in the election of regaining control of Congress. I think Auntie is talking about the real difficult work, the hard work beyond that. Auntie?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And since we're close to the anniversary of the January 6th, I would say that evening was probably the last moment of reckoning for this country, which unfortunately was lost. And this speaks to the need for individuals to do better their work who are also holding the power. What I'm trying to say here is that when the members of Congress and Senate were hiding together in the basements, in the security rooms, if they would have stayed there and had a conversation, a reckoning, which I think was happening, but it was lost the next morning when the Democrats went after, the president, and that opportunity to have the discussion across the aisle was lost. So what I'm trying to say here, Congressman, is that that's why some individuals really have to go also, hopefully on a bipartisan basis, deeper in what it takes, so that leadership can emerge in those moments of reckoning and convince the others that we actually can figure this out. But we have to pause for a moment and think it through and not rush, because it's so precious that we understand the risks that we're in now. And so that would be what I would kind of want to underline, that the moments of reckoning, they will come, but we will continuously, repeatedly fail them unless we really are willing to do the work before that needs to be done, so that we are ready in those moments. Absolutely, election victories are not enough. The pendulum shift is not enough. This country has to unite in much deeper level.
Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and medical doctor and psychiatrist who wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he said in Man's Search for Meaning that between stimulus and response, there is a space. There is a breath. And to Auntie's point, I'm not so sure that Democrats and Republicans hunkered down in their bunker on January 6th understood the breadth of space that existed between the stimulus and how they respond, and
exactly
capacity to move forward together. I think it's part of a profounder reflection that's absolutely necessary at this hour. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Wealthy Wednesdays with P.L. Da Silva. Our very special guest is Auntie N.T. Kynan. I'm so grateful you're here. More when we come back on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know that streaming music, ebooks, audiobooks, movies, and more is available for free from the Los Angeles Public Library? With your library card, you can access the latest music and movies, audiobooks and ebooks, graphic novels, comic books, magazines, and more. If you don't have a library card and live in the city of Los Angeles, you can get a digital card online for free. Check it out at lapl.org/emedia. That's lapl.org/emedia.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse
Come
Jackson.
on and listen to me.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Come on and talk with me.
Royalty Wednesdays
Come
with
on and listen
Dr.
to me.
KBLA Silva and our very special guest, Auntie Pentikainen. The phrase between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. It's a famous quote often attributed to psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Dr. Viktor Frankl, highlighting the crucial moment for conscious choice, self-awareness, personal agency over automatic reactions. I'm particularly grateful that Auntie Pentikainen is our guest today. And Dr. De Silva, as you know, this is our final segment. Dr. De Silva, is there anything that we need to cover before we do ask Auntie to give us our final 3 minutes, because our show stops at the top of the hour, very hard. The final word of hope from Auntie on this segment of our show. Dr. De Silva?
I'd like Auntie to try to expand as much as possible on the whole business of reconciliation for us in this country and also overseas.
Auntie?
Yeah, Congressman and Professor, I mean, I'm a fan of you, but thank you for this invitation. I would say that I've been extremely impressed about the knowledge and wisdom that this country has, including what's been grown from the pain that African Americans have had to endure. And I'll just take one example. Dr. Gail Christopher, who leads National Collective for Health Equity, her work actually led to the idea of the truth, racial healing and transformation. And her bottom line was that we don't need to look exactly what the others did because we are a unique case, but we also have our unique situation. And so I called Dr. Christopher, when we worked together with Congresswoman Barbara Lee, the Desmond Tutu of the United States. And so you have that capacity within your communities that have all the wisdom and knowledge that it takes, to going forward. Incredible wisdom. So I would recommend, really looking into her work, but also others' work. I know that there are so many others. I work with David Racland, who brought this idea of spiritual reparation, which means to people like me, every day choose what is it that I can do to help in addressing what has happened and to repair the harm that has happened. We didn't have to wait for the country or politics to choose. We can choose today to take our responsibility and be part of the repair. My message of hope would be, this. Our brains carry the war trauma for 7 generations, but the God and the Creator has made our brain also a healing organ. We call this neuroplasticity, which means that once we are able and willing to address the pain, our brain heals. This beautiful quote you said of Frankl, it is among the most beautiful, quotes that there are. Thank you, Congressman, for bringing it. But the indigenous people of this country have the wisdom that if you are able to expand that space when you feel the presence of the divine, not just fill it with your thoughts, but actually expand that space, then that divine will start to speak to you. And I think that is exactly what is the freedom between the stimulus and the response. If we can expand that space before we react, then we can start to see the guidance that is already there and that can be received. My final point is, there was been this notion in the Old Testament of the 400 years of silence, prophetic silence. And we know that it's about 400 years from the day that the first slave ships came. And maybe we can call that almost like a prophetic silence. And so in these cycles of 400 years, I would say that this time, despite all the difficulties, is a time of hope because it allows us to discuss some of these very difficult things. We started, chatting with Congressman because he was there when Nelson Mandela was released. He was standing beside him in Cape Town, listening to Mandela. The difference of this country and South Africa is that South Africa has attempted to face its past, but this country has not been willing to do that yet. And so that's the work we have to commit ourselves to look deeper into what it means, not only to face the past, but actually what it means to heal. Because once we heal, that's when the full potential comes into display. And there's so much promise because also of the suffering and endurance that has happened. And there's so much promise and there's so much the world needs that this country has to offer. And so Congressman, thank you for having me. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the future that you people like you are willing to bring forward to this country.
Auntie, I want to say it's very rare someone actually improves upon Viktor Frankl. I've always seen Viktor Frankl and that "and" between stimulus and response as a moment, maybe a breath. But I guess it can be a day. I guess it can be a week. I guess it can be a month. I guess it can be a year. I guess there is a revolutionary patience in that space between stimulus and response. There can be multiple generations between the response. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. actually gave consideration to that space.
Absolutely.
He understood that the actions that he took in the present could have implications for unborn generations of Americans had he chosen a different path in the present. And he even said that it could reap generations of violence upon future generations if we don't handle the moment that we live in correctly. I can't think of a more profound observation of that space, Auntie.
Absolutely, and I think there is so much we should learn from the Holocaust survivors. And there's another, which I think you as a theologian know, which is Martin Buber's wisdom. And he's looking into what is a safe community, because they need to ask themselves, will anybody come, to defend us if this happens again? And he said, if a community is based on belonging, it becomes violent, because eventually the discussion leads who belongs and who doesn't. Or if a community is based on absolute truth, it becomes violent because it becomes a competition whose truth is that governs. But if it's based on presence, then the divinity can come into presence in unexpected ways. And I think here is the sacredness of the process, exactly how you defined. Yahweh means presence. God is present when there is presence. There is space for the miracles God's presence can create when people pause and are present to each other. I think that's the miracle this country needs. That's the miracle healing needs. You can call it Yahweh, you can call it Allah, you can call it God, you can call it Creator. But through presence, the giver of life comes into and gives their power. And I think this is my final point. Love, we have to look to each other through the lens of love. Only through love will we be able to balance the failures and also the promises each and everyone carry.
Auntie, I can't thank you enough for being our guest. I hope you won't be a stranger. PL, we have about a minute before we come forward. PL De Silva, your final thoughts on your show.
We need to ask difficult questions, hard questions, in order to find solutions. There's no way that we can shirk that responsibility. So this is what we need to do. Ask difficult questions, search our souls, and come up with the answers that we need to heal our communities and this nation.
PL, thank you for bringing Auntie. Auntie, thank you for blessing us today. And PL, thank you for blessing us all the time. We're so grateful that you spent the time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listen to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, none other than Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary is going to be dissecting the events of the last couple of weeks. Dr. Yeary, as you know, is our regular contributor on Wednesday afternoons on Wealthy Wednesdays. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Construction is underway on a new housing project in Chicago's North Lawndale neighborhood. Black Mayor Brandon Johnson joined officials at a groundbreaking for the $5.4 million development.
The 7 2-flats that have been constructed and rehabbed by Citizens Building a Better Community will provide an affordable, safe, and quality home for 14 residents.
The project will turn 7 vacant city lots into homes for buyers earning up to 140% of the area's median income. Former President Barack Obama is encouraging Chicago residents to apply for jobs at his presidential center on the South Side. In a video, he said applications are open at obama.org with more than 150 full-time positions available ahead of the center's June opening in Jackson Park. And Black Grammy-winning gospel singer and pastor Donnie McClurkin is facing a lawsuit from a former assistant who alleges years of sexual abuse. McClurkin denies the allegations. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are 13-5 on the road after winning at New Orleans Tuesday night, 111-103. 30 points each for LeBron and Luka Doncic. LeBron also had 8 rebounds and 8 assists in 33 minutes. The Lakers are in San Antonio tonight. LeBron will likely get the night off. At age 41, the Lakers are considering resting LeBron in the second game of back-to-back games throughout the season. The Clippers start a 3-game road trip tonight in New York against the Knicks. The Clippers have been playing a lot better lately. They are 7-1 in their last 8 games. In that stretch, Kawhi Leonard is averaging 35.4 points. This Friday at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some Black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I want to thank in a very special way PL De Silva and Anthony Kynan for their contribution in the last hour, which still has me reflecting. We're waiting for Todd Yeary to join us momentarily. But I want to think about for a moment about this pause, this space, and the way in which we can see the space. Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus, that is, from the moment someone shouts at you or makes you laugh, let's call that the stimulus, and your response, there is a space. Someone shouts at you, you can be still. You don't have to shout back. There is a space right there. And how you respond matters. Like, are you okay? Is there something I can help you with? Or you might even choose to shout back at them. And now we have an escalating situation. Between the moment a police officer stops you and asks you for your driver's license, proof of insurance, and or ID, there is a space. And in that moment, you can comply, or you can tell the officer to go to hell, and it will escalate. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. But it's not just a single breath, but it can be a single breath, because in the moment, there are many decisions that you can make in the moment that can change the trajectory of your life. You can be stimulated to steal something, And then there's this space. What are the consequences of my behavior if I get caught? It can change the trajectory of your life. You can speed through a stop sign. That's the stimulus. You've got to get somewhere really quickly. And or you can stop. But the consequences of speeding through it and then hitting a pedestrian or a child, well, there are consequences. So when Martin Luther King Jr. says, in the present, we can take up arms and fight oppression, or we can do something difficult. We can be nonviolent and loving in our approach. We can register and vote. We can march from Selma to Montgomery. We can train in nonviolent tactics when we sit at a lunch counter. And even though they throw ice cream on us and throw coffee at us and spit in our faces, when the news covers it that night and sees how we are being brutalized by people at a lunch counter, the anticipation and the expectation always was that people of goodwill, who might even say, I support segregation, but I do not like or believe in dehumanization. I don't like what happened to those students sitting at that lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. Some of our movement is the byproduct of, one, acknowledging that Donald Trump is stimulating us, that MAGA is stimulating us, and from the moment the stimulation occurs, there is a space. In that space, we get to choose what our response is. And that space can be in the moment. We can register to vote. That space in the moment could be to pick up arms, and that would be catastrophic for you personally and for the nation at large. Or in that space, we might determine that registering to vote and identifying candidates to support and running for office and following the processes that establish our system of government from the school board level all the way to the presidency of the United States, that our direct engagement matters. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In our response, Viktor Frankl says, lies our growth and our freedom. But also in that space lies truth and lies consequences. And therefore, in that space is also a revolutionary patience and a revolutionary process. Revolutionary patience is an opportunity for us to actually give some thought to the idea that everything doesn't have to happen in the moment. We can actually give it some thought and some reflection. I want to take this opportunity to welcome Reverend Dr. Todd Urey. Dr. Urey, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, Wealthy Wednesdays, The Politics of Our Faith with Dr. Todd Urey. I need you to unmute, my brother. Dr. Urey?
There you go.
Hey, man.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well, and Happy King Day.
All of that good stuff that's coming up at a critical time in not just U.S. history, but world history. This is a little different kind of chaos than we've seen in probably well over a generation.
You know, it's been almost 2 weeks since we've had the opportunity to talk, and I can't wait when we come forward to hear your thoughts on not only the issues that have been undertaken in the world, but I'd like to hear your filter, Dr. Urey, on how Martin Luther King Jr. would be processing this moment. I know that you're going to be the guest speaker at a number of events during this King holiday period. I can't wait to hear. I might even borrow some of what you have to say. without attribution. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 with Dr. Todd Uri when we come forward on this King Day period.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And the politics are faith with Dr. S. Todd Uri, our regular contributor on Wealthy Wednesdays, whose insight and sense of spiritual guidance drives our show at the midweek period. Dr. Uri, welcome forward to the show.
We're good to hang out with you. Seems like we've got a lot to talk about at the beginning of the new year.
Dr. Uri, it's been an amazing new year. Can you process the transformation from 2025 to 2026 and where we find ourselves right now for us?
My initial response would be no. Just because there's been so much coming so quickly that the shock of what we are actually witnessing and experiencing has a tendency to kind of throw us off. We need to pause to really kind of take in and to breathe deeply, to appreciate what's going on globally. You create an intentional distraction tied to every form of violation of law between countries and nations that you could imagine, with no regard for the toll that the actions will take on innocent people. And you do it solely because you need cover on the domestic harm that you've been causing at home. We still have a healthcare crisis. We have now, because there is still no federal budget in place, a looming challenge with yet a potential shutdown yet again, and the fact that poor people, quite honestly, are caught in the crosshairs of a government that just does not care. And so when we find this kind of blatant insensitivity, and you hear a Stephen Miller say that the world has always been ruled by force and power, says then that this is, we keep calling it a rogue government. It is what it is. And the reason it is emboldened is because somewhere along the way, the people bought into the notion of do the right thing as a political philosophy, as opposed to make me do the right thing, which is really part of our political strategy and our history. And so this is a moment where accountability has to be driven from the seats that the people sit in. And the more that this government goes unchecked, the more rabid it's going to become in terms of the actions they take against the interests of the principles of human rights that have been in place. The International Human Rights Document is going into its 76th year now. Well, it almost feels like we never had a human rights document at all, just based on the conduct of this government and the retribution that it will wage and rage against anyone that decides to challenge it.
Dr. Curie, can you give some reflection to the long-term consequences of how the United States will be perceived around the world for having, one, championed the idea of democracy for nearly 250 years. We are commemorating, celebrating, some memorializing the Declaration of Independence this year, 250 years of the idea that all men are created equal. And of course, we know and understand the struggle to make that a reality in our own particular context. But the irony of it all, that we would be commemorating 250 years of the Declaration of Independence this year, July 4th, 1776. At the same time, we are declaring through the actions of the government that all men around the world are not, and women are not, and those whose sexual preferences may be different than our own are not. Dr. Uri, help me with this.
That's how we're going to start the new year. Okay.
I handed you the salt.
I can see quickly where this is going. Part of this 250-year observance is observing what is the fairy tale of America and not the true history of America.
Yeah.
That the crafting of the Declaration of Independence, while it is noble in terms of its aspirational rhetoric, it was narrow in terms of its reach and application. And so there were a lot of folks that were actually left out of that consideration. Because of the persistence of the people who were forced to live either on the margins or outside of the perimeter of what that declaration spoke to and spoke for, America has become more inclusive, not in an idealistic sort of sense, but in a recognition that in 250 years, the America of 2026, at least in the way we kind of envision it, is not the America of 1776. But it feels as if the America of 2026 is destined to look more like the America of 1776 in terms of who gets left out of this democratic formula that we would call inclusion. And so my concern is, and you asked this question before the break about, what would be going on in Dr. King's mind. There's what he'd be thinking, but there's also what he would be saying. There would be I think, a direct, intentional, necessary confrontation of the actions of government and the inactions of government, obviously at the same time, to call out the moral failings of this moment And not just morality in some abstract sense, but in terms of the real cost, the real penalties that are imposed on people when the government fails to uphold the principles of dignity and humanity that you speak to, that all persons are created equal. All persons are not created equal in Trump's America. Let's just be real clear that there are divisions and distinctions that this government applies every single day. And so if you are not included in the baseline norm, which we know what that is, then you've got work to do. We've got work to do. And it's more than talking at the problem. We've got to mobilize and hold the government accountable and make necessary changes to who represents the people's interest, because the people are getting jammed up and they playing in our face.
Dr. Yuri, I live on East 72nd Street in the city of Chicago. Just a few short months ago, my community was attacked by Black Hawk helicopters just 3 blocks from my house. I could hear them that night, repelling special forces out of helicopters onto an apartment building that I can step out in front of my house to the corner and see. Looking for Venezuelans that were brought here by the governor of Texas, the governor of Florida, sent to Chicago in the dead of winter with their families and without food. The President of the United States then came to Chicago through the form of the National Guard to arrest people sent here by American governors, called us, and we call ourselves a sanctuary city. We're not going to leave someone outside in the winter in Chicago. It's not humane. It's not the right thing to do. Our religious communities were all involved in that Christian ethos and that Christian ethic. And I see those same people now being held without trial, without due process. You have one foot in the courtroom and one foot in the pulpit. I also see the attack on Venezuela and the desire of this administration to send these men and women back to their homes as some kind of nefarious plan to make sure that there are no protests on the ground by people who came to the United States under one pretense, but were then deported under another. Dr. Yuri, I'm not trying to complicate this for you, because I do know you have one foot in the pulpit and one foot in the courtroom, and in reality, the reality of what we're looking at this hour. Help those of us who are struggling try and process that.
Yeah. One, we have to be clear. We have to be very, very clear in our thinking. And we have to be very clear in our observation. That what we are seeing is by design. Much like every system of oppression that we have seen throughout world history, and particularly US history, has been by design. And so remember when the issue was folks coming into the country, really trying to find safe haven. You had governors that were loading them up on chartered buses, paid for with public funds, to send them to cities led by Democratic Party elected officials to prove a point. And so you tried to overwhelm the capacity of cities to provide services. And then you wait until the right time to go back and terrorize the very people that you shipped to other parts.
That part.
Imposing yourself on those very cities. So we have to be clear that this is by design. This is an orchestrated issue. This isn't happenstance. This isn't arbitrary. And so now that we again see the conduct, we cannot now act like we don't understand the motives and the motivations. We cannot pretend that when ICE is literally killing people in the streets of our cities.
Today in Minnesota, yes.
In Minneapolis. Oh, absolutely. When we hear that you need the National Guard to bring down crime in urban context, they're not running the National Guard out in the countryside. Even though you can have a Baltimore City, which the president called rat infested, achieve a homicide rate lower than it has been in over 50 years. And so there's been this attempt to invalidate anything that's not white. We just got to say it. Look at who gets rewarded. If you think about the advances in terms of who serves in the military, now there's a review of women in combat. Right now, we're going after retired military officers who serve the country valiantly and with integrity, taking their pension and punishing them because they speak to the obvious that we do not obey illegal orders. That's not an idea. That's actually a principle that's written inside military law. This thing that somehow or other we are supposed to be contrite in the face of obvious hostility and oppression is not only offensive, it's wrong, but it is only wrong if the people prove it to be wrong, which is why in this moment, while we have to think about what's going on, we also have to think about what are we going to do about what's going on. And that's why we got to get back to the principles that helped us get here. Protest and participation in the political process to hold the people's government accountable at all costs.
Dr. Ure, we have about a minute and a half before we come forward. And I think that's probably appropriate for the next segment. That is, what are we going to do? If I can ask you to give some preliminary thought to putting your organizing hat on, organizing people in this environment where there seems to be some level of frustration, some level of the number of issues that are being shot at us every single day. In this moment, I think about Brother James Baldwin when he said, to be Black in America is to wake up every day in a different form of outrage or just rage. And one minute, our brothers and sisters, for example, in the urban core, were very supportive of the idea that Venezuelans are taking jobs from Black folk. And now we, under President Donald Trump, are sending Venezuelans back to Venezuela. But now we're stealing oil from them. And them same Black folk are saying, wait a minute, we've seen this script before. Wait a minute, this isn't something that is right, that is tolerable. I understood the so-called illegal immigration argument, and I voted for Donald Trump to get them out of here because we can't find jobs, some of my Black Republican friends might say. But now they're like, wait a minute, you mean you're going to steal the bauxite and the lithium and the gold and the diamonds and the natural resources from the people of Africa or South America and leave them there? Come on now. We've heard this story before, and hence African-American men are now leaving the Republican Party in droves. We'll talk about it when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The White House says Minnesotans no longer support Democratic Governor Tim Walz.
I think Tim Walz probably dropped out of the race because he realizes he no longer has the support of the people of his own state.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tied his decision to drop a third-term bid to the ongoing Somali daycare fraud scandal, calling Medicaid fraud in the state rampant and noting federal investigators are now involved. The president of Seattle's police union is stepping down. Mike Solon says he will not seek another term after serving since 2020. Solon was a controversial figure facing backlash over comments linking Black Lives Matter to January 6th and criticizing police accountability investigations. And attorney Ronald Slates has sued O.J. Simpson's estate, claiming he's owed more than $1 million in unpaid legal fees. The estate is already facing a nearly $58 million civil judgment tied to the Fred Goldman case, with a probate judge now set to sort out competing claims. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The odds makers in Vegas have a lot of confidence in the Rams for their first-round playoff game Saturday at Carolina. The Rams are 10-point favorites. The Rams will have wide receiver Devontae Adams back in the lineup. Adams missed the last 3 games with a hamstring injury. The Chargers are 3.5-point underdogs in their playoff matchup Sunday night at New England. Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh's older brother John is the latest NFL head coach to lose his job. 7 teams are now looking for a head coach after Baltimore fired John Harbaugh. Harbaugh was in Baltimore 18 years. This Friday at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some Black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter, the controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580, because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And midweek, Dr. S. Todd Yeary, the politics of our faith. He helps guide us through Hump Day and through the remainder of the week. This is our first conversation catching up since the break in January 1st of the new year, making the transition from 2025 to 2026. And I don't know anyone's mind who is capable and quicker and more thorough in their capacity to analyze and share some grounding for us as we try to navigate our way through the new year. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
You like having serious conversations, so I like hanging out with you. Glad to be with you.
You are the man. Our producer, Gina Towns, has a clip that she would like to play right now. She says the entire world is now reacting to the precipitous unilateral actions of the U.S. government.
Shockwaves are rippling across East Asia today as North Korea fires ballistic missiles just hours after the U.S. military captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The launches mark Pyongyang's first missile test in 2 months, sending projectiles into the sea between the Koreas and Japan. The move comes as South Korea's president, Lee Jae-myung, begins a state visit to China, North Korea's closest ally. Experts say the missiles were a clear message to Beijing, signaling Pyongyang's objection to closer ties between China and South Korea. At the same time, analysts say the tests demonstrate North Korea's readiness to respond aggressively, contrasting its nuclear and military posture with Venezuela's current crisis. South Korea and Japan condemned the launches. Seoul convened an emergency security meeting, urging Pyongyang to halt provocative acts that violate United Nations Security Council resolutions.
North Korea launched at least 2 ballistic missiles toward the east from near its west coast between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock this morning. As for the details, Japan, the US, and South Korea are currently working closely together to analyze the situation. But we estimate that the missiles fell outside Japan's exclusive economic zone in the Sea of Japan. In addition, there is a possibility that both ballistic missiles flew on irregular trajectories, and we are continuing to analyze this. The first missile was launched at around 7:54 a.m., reached a maximum altitude of about 50 kilometers, and flew approximately 900 kilometers. The second missile was launched at around 8:05 a.m., reached a maximum altitude of about 50 kilometers, and flew approximately 950 kilometers. Regarding this launch, our country lodged a stern protest and strongly condemned North Korea through the embassy route in Beijing. Whatever their intentions may be, North Korea's nuclear and missile development threatens the peace and stability of our country and the international community, and is absolutely unacceptable. The Ministry of Defense will continue to make every effort to gather information, analyze and conduct surveillance and monitoring of North Korea's military activities, working closely with the United States and other partners.
The missiles, launched around 7:50 a.m. local time, flew approximately.
Dr. Yeary, the world is in a messed up place, and every action in the universe is creating one of Newton's laws, an equal and opposite reaction, and it is reverberating throughout the globe. Your thoughts, Dr. Yeary?
Yeah, watching that reminds me as a kid growing up, if you're going to be a bully, you might want to check and make sure you're the only bully. Because once you play your hand, somebody else is going to be ready to not only match you, but raise you in terms of your intensity. I believe that this is going to be a moment where you may see some realignment of alliances that, especially after earlier today, the seizing of a Russian flagged oil tanker and Russia's president responding. You know, you have to be very, very careful that you don't pick a fight that you can't finish. And in some instances, folks who have looked at world history will often tell you that the empire of a particular age often falls because of a critical mistake made at a time where they really did not understand the alignment of interests imperially. This notion that, you know, you can blow up power boats in the middle of international water, you can blow up docks using the CIA. I mean, some of this behavior raises, I think, the memory of prior hostilities that were imposed on our community when they were coming really directly at us. Now they're coming at us more indirectly, but certainly if you come in to deport the folks that take Black jobs, well, what jobs did they have before you deported them? Let's be clear that these jobs are manual menial labor to go back into the fields in the service economy to be able to take care of the interests of white monopolistic corporate interests. Let's be very clear on that. So when I don't want to go through the funding mechanism of the government, I just call my rich friends and say, I want to build a new ballroom on the east wing of the White House and tear the old wing down. Or I'm going to get my big oil friends to come in and help Venezuela maximize their mineral interest called oil, their benefit. But oh, by the way, we going to skim 50 million barrels off the top. That is part and parcel, the beginning of the replay of the Berlin Conference that led to the compartmentalizing and the portioning, the carving up of the continent of Africa. And so we got to be clear on where we are. Just because they take the books off the shelves don't mean we don't need to go into our own bookstores and remember. That's what Dr. King always did. He remembered the course and the trajectory of history so that he could align where we have been with where we are, and then raise the fundamental question, where do we go from here, chaos or community? Well, now that we're at chaos, the question has to be raised. Will we linger here? Will we be like the lepers who sat outside the city gate because the rules said they could not enter the city without there being penalty? Will we continue to watch the world pass us by, or will we intentionally decide not when we die, but how we die, and we will die with the dignity of our humanity intact, because we're not going to sit here and watch you ostracize us and limit us and think that there's nothing that we choose to do about it by our own capability and by our own intent.
I'm a little bit puzzled, and I know we just have 2 minutes before the break, and we've got more to talk about on the other side of the break. You know, in this moment, thinking and reflecting on the 97th birthday of Dr. King, I was born in 1965. The world was introduced to Martin Luther King in Birmingham. And then there's the Selma to Montgomery period. There's the organizations of students and other nonviolent actions throughout the South, and then into Chicago as well. And we see this love affair, love-hate, in some cases, relationships with Dr. King, his approach in various facets within the African-American community. But then we see this major departure, Dr. Yeary, when he takes his position against the war. You know, why are you talking about the war, Dr. King? Why are you into the war? And we see it with Joseph H. Jackson. We see it with other preachers. We see this challenge to Dr. King because of his anti-war stance. I'm hoping that when we come forward, you know, in this moment, our leadership that steps outside of the box to talk about American imperialism. We're used to them fighting for the Voting Rights Act. We're used to them doing certain civil, being with George Floyd. We're used to them fighting the prison industrial complex. But now these leaders, this small category of leaders like Dr. King, are drawing the parallels between Venezuela and Cuba and Nigeria and what's going on in our world as also some significant to the domestic conversation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Our very special guest is a college professor, a teacher, a thinker, both a pastor and a practicing lawyer, Dr. S. Todd Yeary. More with Dr. Yeary when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-237-8585. That's 800-237-8585. Again, that's 800-237-8585.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson
Listen to me. Come on and talk with me.
Wealthy Wednesdays and the faith not to fall. Our faith, Dr. S. Todd Erie. Just a couple of final questions before Dr. Erie offers us his word of hope. Dr. Erie, before the break, I was sharing with you that I think Dr. King was trying to share with us that the millions, if not billions of dollars that we were using to fight a war abroad in Vietnam should have been used here at home to fight to fund anti-poverty programs, SNAP benefits, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. This is the first time the U.S. defense budget has surpassed $1 trillion under Donald Trump and the tax breaks from the big ugly bill. It just seems to me that between the tax breaks and the funding of the military, that the moment would be right for a moral voice to emerge saying that there is a connection between what's taking place in Venezuela and our world and the anxiety, particularly the economic anxiety we're experiencing here in America. Dr. Erie?
In America and around the world, let's just be very clear. Poverty as we know it in this country looks much different than poverty that we see in most of the rest of the world. And as you were talking about Dr. King's position on the war, I was reminded of the year before, little more than a year to the day of Dr. King's assassination, that Muhammad Ali was very clear on why he was not enlisting to go fight in Vietnam. And he took a principled stance that going to exact hostility on behalf of a country when he has no personal animus against the people of Vietnam made no sense. Not only did it not make any sense, he said it ran counter. He said, if I thought going to fight in the war would liberate 22 million of my people, you wouldn't have to enlist me. I'd sign up on my own. So the question that is raised from the champ's position and should be ours is who benefits from this? Who benefits from this posturing? Who benefits from this violence? Who benefits from this hostility? The violence is exacted to impose fear and trauma so that you'll stay in your place. You won't challenge plantation leadership in politics and demand liberation and freedom. You'll just stay in your place. You'll go along to get along. You'll step and fetch it because that's what is required of you in the moment. And so what we are seeing, Dr. King stepped outside of his lane, though he stepped outside of a lane that most folks didn't understand, including people that looked like him and colleagues who worked with him. He was most hated in our community. And so what this says to me is that the cause of liberation is not for you to make friends. It's for you to make change.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to have, a groupie gathering to be about the business of liberation, then you're in the wrong line of work. And so what we've got to do is figure out, are we willing to find true allies, though there won't be many, to begin to reach this necessary tipping point to change not only the momentum, but the trajectory of not only how America will go, but how the world needs to change. Dr. King said there's a difference between isness and oughtness. We can't just look at the way things are, the way they exist, and not decide that we're going to at the same time raise what things ought be and use that as the mantle of our agenda to make change at home and abroad.
I'd like to leave the final 2.5 minutes for your word of hope, but I do need 30 seconds of it just to say this. President cut some kind of deal to take 50 million barrels of oil away from the people of Venezuela. That comes to about $2.8 billion. If I were in the Congress of the United States today, I'd be offering an amendment to a series of bills to make sure that every cent from Venezuelan oil goes to drug prevention programs in our cities, in our rural areas, and in our countries. Is that something that you would support, Dr. Uri? Since we were there, since we are there stopping drugs, shouldn't it go to drug prevention when it comes to the United States?
We're taking airplanes as gifts. We're taking oil as payback. The patronage of this administration knows no depth. There is no bottom to it, how low it will go. And so the only way you get that utility is there's got to be courage in the Congress, which has become basically an agency of the executive branch over the last years. And unless there's some courage in those ranks, they're going to use that $2.8 billion to further line their pockets or figure out how they're going to get government ownership in some private company so that the United States government just becomes another corporation on the world stage. And soon you'll be able to buy stock on some stock exchange in the process.
I'm hurt by that answer, Dr. Todd Uri. We've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds for a word of hope.
Well, here's the word of hope. I've been mulling this whole conversation. Dr. King talked about the great world house in which we must live together. Black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile, Jew, Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, and Hindu. A family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interest who, because we can never again live apart, we must learn somehow to live with each other in peace. That's part and parcel of what is at the core of this whole immigration, in air quotes, debate and fight. Do we have boundaries that exclude and limit? But here's what I would leave. Jesus says to the disciples in Matthew 5, you are the light of the world, but no one takes a light and hides it under a bushel basket. We've got to light up the world. And the reason I thought about that is when Emma Lazarus wrote the New Colossus, the portion which is etched at the base of the Statue of Liberty, she said, give me you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to Dr. S. Todd Uri on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Uri, thank you for your time today.
Always good to be with you.
Until next time, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.